Hello everyone, I'm Claire and welcome to Dealing with Stress, an online workshop from carers in Hertfordshire. We have two aims today. The first one is to identify the symptoms of stress, so what it looks like, what it feels like. And the second one is to decide how best to manage your stress. We'll go through lots of different tips and techniques. Some of them might work for you, others might not. But hopefully there'll be a few there that help you decide what is right for you. To start off, let's look a bit at what stress actually is. It's a word that a lot of us use. Most of us will have experienced stress at some point, but let's just take a moment to define what it actually is. Stress is the body's reaction to feeling threatened or under pressure. So it is a natural response. It's caused by an existing factor or stressor. So it doesn't come out of nowhere. There is a trigger, something that creates this response in our body. It is incredibly common. Most of us will experience stress at some point in our lives, although there are a few people I've met who say that they don't ever get stressed out, and that must be a lovely, peaceful existence. But if you're watching this, I'm guessing that, like me, you will have experienced stress on some level before. It can affect our mood, body, and our relationships, especially when it feels out of our control. This is a theme that we'll come back to again in the workshop later, this feeling of being out of control and how we can regain control in our lives. Caring for someone, unsurprisingly, can cause a great deal of stress. There are lots of stressors inherent in caring roles and lots of things that we might like to control, but unfortunately cannot. It is worth remembering, though, that not all stress is bad. It is, as we've seen, a natural response to a threat or a perceived threat. So I'd like to take a moment to just quickly go through something that we do in our Caring with Confidence course. Have a look at this stressometer. Now, most of the time we're talking about stress, we're talking about destructive stress. So stress that makes us feel unable to concentrate, confused, irritable. These are a lot of negative sides to stress and some unpleasant experiences that we have associated with stress. But some stress can be good. One of the most obvious examples is a deadline. If we have a project to achieve or a task to do, and we have a certain deadline, an achievable deadline, then that can sometimes motivate us to achieve that goal, to carry out that task and get things done. It can also help us feel quite energized. We have purpose, we have structure, we have something to aim for. It is possible to not be stressed enough. When we take that deadline away, in the previous example, we can feel that it's difficult to achieve something. We can feel lethargic. If we have all the time in the world to do something, sometimes that makes it difficult to actually get around to doing it. A sense of boredom or being underused. I think as people have lost jobs in lockdown or students are unable to attend school, there are some people feeling not stressed enough or going into that destructive stress cycle of having so much pressure. So we're going to be focusing on the destructive stress, because good stress is good, that's fine, let's keep that, but we want to really manage the destructive stress and stop it taking over. So symptoms of stress range from the physical to the mental. Here are a few physical symptoms of stress. They're all individual, it affects everybody differently. Chances are that at least one or two of these will be recognizable. Skin flare-ups, muscle tension, headaches, and a lot of them feed into each other. If you're very tight, if you've got lots of tension, then you might find that as a result, your breathing becomes more shallow. So these are a few symptoms of stress. There are many, many others. And moving on to the mental symptoms of stress, we see things like mind in overdrive, focusing on the negative and an inability to see the positive. And as these build up over time, they can create chronic conditions such as anxiety and depression. So over the short term, not too much damage, but if we're experiencing excessive amounts of stress on a regular basis and not having enough break from it, then it can lead to longer term problems. It's worth thinking about what our particular symptoms of stress are, so we can spot that we are stressed at a very early stage. So what are the warning signs for you? Not just the things that cause you stress, but what do you spot in your body or your mind that tells you you're stressed? So one of my key stress symptoms is my shoulders just start to creep up, and I carry a lot of tension here. And that's one of the signs that I know that I'm starting to experience stress. So take a moment to identify what are your personal stress symptoms. When we've identified our stress symptoms, we can move on to look at managing stress. Awareness and identification is really the first step in managing our stress. We've done the first part. We've identified stress symptoms, warning signs. Once we know when we're starting to feel stressed, then it's easier to identify what is causing us stress. How many times have we had an argument with someone over something seemingly trivial, like the laundry or mess or housework or something that doesn't really matter, and we've had a big argument and then realised that actually we're not arguing about that at all. That's not what we're cross about. It was something that happened days ago. If we identify those days ago that we're starting to experience stress, that our stress symptoms are starting to appear, then it makes it easier at that time to recognise what is causing us stress and save this build-up and argument later. If we try to take control of everything, then that can lead to a lot of stress. There are some areas of our lives that we cannot control, and it's difficult, but sometimes we just need to try to accept that and focus on what we can control. So when we're looking at our stresses, there are some things that we will not be able to change, and we just need to accept them and move on. And there will be some things, there will be some stresses or parts of stresses that we can control. And when we've identified those, then that can help us feel a little bit more in control and reduce that sense of panic that can create a stressed feeling. So this is from Caring with Confidence. Again, it's called TPN, and it's a little exercise to help identify parts of an issue that we have different types of control over. So I'm going to use the example of caring for someone with dementia, who is fine, who's lovely, who I love very dearly, but she repeats things a lot. And I know it shouldn't irritate me, but sometimes it just is quite frustrating hearing the same thing over and over and over again. And then I get cross with her and she gets upset and I feel worse. So that causes both of us stress. In this situation, I cannot control the fact that she has dementia. I don't like that. I would like to be able to change that and control it and change it, but I can't. So that's one area I have no control over. So in caring roles, the condition of the person that we're caring for is often something that unfortunately we don't have any control over. Moving on, we look at the areas that we have partial control over. In this particular example, I can maybe control the situations that arise that cause her to repeat things. It might be that when she watches certain TV programs, that prompts her to start repeating herself. Or if I get into a particular conversation around a particular topic, then she's more likely to say these particular phrases and particular stories over and over again. So I can control the situation that we're in to a certain extent. I can lead the conversation away, I can change the TV channel. Those are areas I have partial control over. And finally, the T in TPN stands for total control. I do have total control over whether I am there to hear it. I can't stop her repeating herself. That is entirely down to her, but I don't have to listen to it. I will, of course, listen to it sometimes, but if I'm starting to identify my stress symptoms, if it's starting to get to me today, I could leave the room, go for a walk. If I'm not able to leave her, I could say, I'm just going to put on my headphones and listen to my music for a while. I can control my own actions. So even if we decide that actually we're not going to change an awful lot in this particular situation, it can help to break down the problem and look at what we do have control over, because then we're aware of the choices that we're making, and that reduces our stress because we feel more in control. Organisation and planning can go a long way to help reduce stress, particularly if you're someone who likes to have things in a very orderly fashion. I think a lot of people who are caring have huge to-do lists, have lots of things to do, and it can feel overwhelming sometimes. It's worth looking at what we have to do and prioritising it. What is urgent? What is important? Some things can wait until tomorrow. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by a huge long list of things that you need to do, prioritise. And do you have to do everything? Delegate if possible. There are people who can do things for us. It could be that we get a care agency in to help. It could be that we get a cleaner. It could be that we ask family or friends to just come in and spend half an hour or so with the person that we're caring for, so we can get on with some other things. We need to accept that if we are going to delegate, it might not be as we would want it. Sometimes if you want a job done, you have to do it yourself. But it can be less stress if you get someone else to do it, even if they do it wrong. I recently delegated the organisation of a child's birthday party, and of course those parts that weren't in my control were done wrong because I'm the only one who can do them right, and that caused me a little bit of stress, but overall it would have been far more stressful to do everything myself. So delegate if possible, or just say no. I think we're very good at taking on things that other people ask us to do, and if it's just a little thing, then we feel bad about saying no. Sometimes we have to, and it's fine to change our minds. If we're doing someone a favour and it gets too much, it's okay to say no and say, I'm sorry, things have changed, I can't do this right now. Plan activities for you, not just everyone else. Again, I think we're very good, particularly as carers, at trying to find fun things or activities or stimulating things that other people can do, and we don't spend enough time thinking about what we can do ourselves. Now, I'm not saying that we should plan huge days out for ourselves or holidays, or as lovely as that would be, but just little things, maybe once a day, something that we are going to do for ourselves maybe painting nails, painting our fingernails, or just spending 5 minutes in the garden doing some gardening, listening to birdsong. Just something that is us, for us. And if we plan it, we're more likely to do it rather than just putting it off and having it in the back of our mind. If we come up with a plan and say, I will do this today, we are more likely to achieve it. Talking of achieving, when we write to-do lists, make them achievable. So I don't know about you, but if I wrote down on my to-do list, clean the bathroom, oh, that would take me ages. And chances are that it might not get done in a day because it's just a huge undertaking. So rather than having that on my to-do list, failing to do it, getting stressed out because I haven't achieved something, I might write down, clean the basin, clean the bath. If I was having a really rubbish day where I felt I couldn't achieve anything, maybe I'll break it down even further, clean taps. Just break down tasks into manageable bite-sized chunks so they're not causing you more stress. Make it easy for yourself to achieve things. Stay healthy. There's a lot of advice. I think a lot of people will know how to stay healthy, but it is worth bringing up because if we are stressed out, then our health does suffer. So to make it easy for ourselves, try and stay healthy as you can, and that will help combat stress. So sleep, sometimes sleep goes downhill when we're feeling stressed, and then the trick is to not feel stressed out that we're not sleeping because we're stressed. Do as much as you can to help yourself sleep, and get as much as you can. Nutrition, there's a lovely basket of vegetables there to remind you what good nutrition looks like. Exercise as much as possible. Be aware of smoking, alcohol and caffeine. We would be much healthier if we gave up all of these things. However, we are human, and realistically people make their own choices about what they would like to do. Just be aware of what you're doing so that it remains a choice rather than an unconscious habit. When combating stress, a really important way of fighting stress and dealing with it is connecting with people. Particularly if one of your stress symptoms is becoming very insular, getting stuck in your own head, having your thoughts going round and round on the same track. Connecting with people helps get us out of our own head. Excess stress can be dangerous, just like crossing the road. And when we cross a busy road, we bring our attention to the situation. We stop, we look, and we listen. So if we feel like we're in danger of getting overwhelmed by stress, then we can do the same thing. Stop, look, and listen. So look up, actually engage with people. As you're walking around, don't just keep your eyes on the ground. Look up and smile. I think it's become slightly more normal in these socially distant times to make eye contact with other people. Even in Hertfordshire, even in the south of England, people are more inclined to look up, even maybe say good morning. Just make that small connection with other people as you go around. Listen. So maybe this is something on your to-do list. You could tick that off. Catch up with a person, check in, see how they're feeling. But ask someone how they are and really listen. That is the crucial point. And that can be quite hard to concentrate on what someone's saying, particularly if there's someone who talks a lot, particularly if you're someone who is used to distracting yourself and multitasking, talking to someone on the phone, but checking the weather, or suddenly noticing, oh, there's a cobweb up there that I really need to sort out. Actually, really bring your attention to this other person and focus on what they're saying, their life, and it will help you gain some perspective, get out of your life for a little bit and get a bit of a break. Also, catching up with friends or family is a really good way of building relationships and maintaining relationships that can support us when we are feeling stressed. Friends, family, clubs, courses, or volunteering all help. So if the idea of a one-to-one conversation with someone, a really intense conversation, is causing you more stress, there are so many different ways of connecting with people. It can be on the phone, it can be simply talking to someone on the checkout in the supermarket, it can be online. I recently did an online course and took part in the discussion forum, and initially I thought, oh, do I have to? I'll just whiz through the content but not actually discuss. And actually I found that discussing with other people, making comments and being responded to, did give me some small sense of validation and interacting with people. So that was a really low stakes social interaction online, without having to do any talking. Just posting a comment, having someone reply can be a way of connecting with people. So I am aware that this slide could be causing people some stress right now, just saying take time out or you could be forced to later. But the aim is to reduce the potential stress. It can be so difficult to take time out, to find some time for yourself, to make time. But the stress that can be caused if you develop a chronic condition or have to go into hospital for some stress-related condition and then have to figure out how to care for the person you're caring for while you're in hospital, who's going to take over all these things that you're holding together, that can be far more stressful than figuring out how on earth you're going to take some time for yourself now. Ask for help. If it's really difficult, ask someone to help you out. We're not talking about taking 2 weeks away, although that would be so lovely. Just some time, just half an hour to read a book or to do a Sudoku or something that you enjoy. Do some knitting. I don't know, whatever is a hobby, whatever you used to do when you had time. Just something, 5 minutes, half an hour in your day. Maybe someone could come in, maybe there's a volunteer who could come in and stay with the person that you're caring for, friend or family. If you're not happy or there isn't someone that you could have in the home, is there someone who could keep someone talking for half an hour or so? A phone conversation. Maybe you could put some music on, they can watch something, they can do something that they enjoy. Maybe there's something that you both enjoy and you can do it together. But the point is, it's something that you do enjoy doing, some time for yourself. And that isn't chores or specifically caring related. Carers in Hertfordshire has a Make a Difference service, and I would encourage you to check it out if you haven't already. It is not means tested. It's open to all carers registered with Carers in Hertfordshire once, and it's a grant of a few £100 that it can be used on anything that will make a difference to you. So something that will enable you to take a break. People have used it on all sorts of things. So a tumble dryer, because having laundry hanging around the house was causing this carer stress. An exercise bike. Someone wasn't able to go out, didn't feel able to leave the house for a while and get exercise, so they spent the money on an exercise bike to have exercise inside the house. It could be wet weather gear, so you can get out and get some exercise, walking, hiking boots, or equipment to start up a hobby. So art classes, art materials, something for you, something that would make a difference to you. It's very personal. So have a think about what you would spend that money on, and then get in touch. Give us a call. The number is at the end of the presentation, and just say that you're interested in our Make a Difference service. Reframing your thoughts is another useful thing to do if you are one of those people who gets stuck in a rut with stressed out thoughts and not able to escape the pattern that you sort of created in your head. Some people find it useful to think in metaphors. So you can imagine that you are standing on the platform and watching the thought train rushing past. It's all very well saying, oh, just stop thinking of negative thoughts. That can be easier said than done. Some people find it easier to actually visualize their thoughts rushing past as a train. And if you're on the platform, you're not part of your thoughts. You're not getting on them, on the train, not going with them. You're just an observer, and that can help take a step back. If you feel like you're just getting bogged down in the details, in the small things, imagine yourself climbing into your helicopter and rising higher and higher, out of yourself, out of the house, up and up, to get a sense of the bigger picture. Again, it's just a way of visualizing these practices that we are told to do, and some people find them particularly helpful. Shifting perspective can also be quite a useful practice to get into. Easier said than done, but it's also helpful to just be aware that this is an option. So I'll take each of these in turn. There are others, but shifting between the past and the future. If we've got a difficult conversation that we need to have and we just don't know how to get started, don't know how to even approach it, and we're putting it off, instead of thinking about how we can go about doing this in the future, what on earth we're going to say, we could shift our perspective back to a time when we had a difficult conversation in the past and think about that time. When did we get started? How did we get started then? And how can we bring that to bear on our current situation? Between passive and active, it kind of links back to TPN. If there's something that there is a big problem or issue that we feel incapable of solving, and we feel like we just can't achieve anything, we can't make any difference at all, so why bother? We can't even get started. It's about not looking at the thing as a whole, but thinking about what we can do. Even if we can't at the moment see a way of dealing with the whole situation, what one small thing could we do? What action could we take that might change something? And if we can see our way to finding one action, then there might be another, and that might lead on to a further, and we might be able to influence the situation more than we thought. Shifting between ourselves and others. So for example, if we're having a day where we think, oh, everyone hates me, they really don't like me, I'm losing all my friends, life's so terrible. Rather than thinking about what other people are thinking of us, their opinion of us, we can change the focus to ourselves. So what do I think? What do I like about myself? What am I pleased about? Forget what everyone else is thinking about me. What am I doing that I'm proud of, that I like? Positive post-its. Some people like to display mantras or positive affirmations, and this is a similar kind of thing, although you don't need to write anything on these post-its. Simply stick them around the house, and your challenge is to think of something positive every time you notice one. Obviously, if you stick them all over the walls, then you will drive yourself crazy trying to think of something positive every time you see one. So maybe be a bit strategic about where you put them. It could be that you put them in the cupboard where you keep the mugs. So every time you go to make a cup of tea, you think something positive, even if it's something like, oh, I'm making myself a cup of tea, I'm taking time for me. Anything that prompts you to replace negative thoughts with positive ones, and just build a habit of thinking a bit more positively. These are just a few suggestions. There's lots of stuff out there on how to reframe your thoughts, but these are some good places to start. And finally, mindfulness. Mindfulness is proven to reduce stress if it is a practice that works for you and that you're able to do regularly. MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction, is a particular branch of mindfulness to help reduce stress. So if you look for courses or practices or videos or guided meditations that are related to MBSR, they will be more useful in dealing with stress reduction. Research shows that people who practice mindfulness regularly are likely to view demanding situations as less stressful. So if you think right back to the beginning, where we spoke about stress being the body's reaction to a sense of threat, people who practice mindfulness are less likely to view that situation as a threat. They're likely to see it as demanding or challenging, but not necessarily as a threat. So they are less likely to have a stress response as a result. People who practice mindfulness are also more likely to use coping strategies to deal with any problems that they're facing, instead of just avoiding the situation. So things like hiding under your covers and just burying yourself in the duvet can help to reduce stress in the short term, but they don't really solve anything. So people who practice mindfulness are more likely to come up with productive ways of dealing with the problem, dealing with the issue that the stress has made them aware of. So I've gone through lots of different tips, techniques, strategies. Some of them I'm sure you will think, oh, they don't work for me. That's not something that I'm comfortable with. Others, hopefully, will have struck a chord, will be worth investigating. Stress is a really personal experience, so some of these will work for some people and some of these will work for others. But hopefully you've got something to take away. It's worth spending a little bit of time now just thinking about what you already do when you're stressed, because we've all been alive for a certain number of years, and we all develop our own stress management strategies. So you already have ways of dealing with stress. Hopefully this has given you some other ways to explore and think about. That's it from me. These are all our details, so please do get in touch if you'd like any further information, if you'd like any support or information or advice on caring. If you are interested in our Make a Difference service, give us a call or drop us an email. Thank you.